Let's bring in our expert panel to discuss this developing situation. Grisha Yakubovich, former head of the civilian department in the IDF's Kogat, and in Ramallah, Palestinian security analyst Mohammad Najib. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining me today. So, Grisha, I'll start with you. How much Israel should be concerned from this terror attack yesterday in the central Israel? Is it a one-off, or is it a trend that we'll see more and more?
Israel should be very, very concerned from the trend in the West Bank that started last year. If we will count the Palestinian Authority officials that were killed as terrorists, holding illegal weapon, opening fire on Israelis, the number will be 52. This is the year 2023. It means the same Palestinian officials that have this responsibility on their shoulders to lead security and civil coordination are the ones who are actually leading terrors. Unfortunately, also many relatives and sons of PA officials are also part of this terror trend, or let's say the motivation and the spirit that is coming from Gaza, from Hamas, that lead the narrative of Muqawama, resistance. Now, a question to the Palestinian Authority, a question to the people of the West Bank. Is this reality in Gaza, is the reality that you want to see in the West Bank? And this is a question that they should ask themselves.
So we'll ask that question to Mohammad Najib. You've heard Grisha here asking whether, the West Bank people want the same situation that we're witnessing in Gaza since October 7th.
Actually, the West Bank didn't participate or took part in October 7 attack or events there. And despite that, the Israeli heavy crackdown on the West Bank set up 750 checkpoints that restricted the freedom of movement for Palestinians. And every night, every day, there are raids of the West Bank, refugees camps, towns, and cities, arresting more than 5,900 Palestinians, including women and children. And 2,800 of them were transferred to the administrative detention, which means detention without trial and no sending them to the court. So more than 340 also were killed because the Palestinians says that the reservists of the IDF are serving the West Bank and they easy pull that trigger and shoot against the Palestinians. So this increasing of and escalation of violence came from the IDF and from the settlers' violence against the Palestinians, their properties and their lands. And also, there is a massive anger mounted among the Palestinians for what's happening in Gaza, and they feel helpless. They can't send any donations as in the previous wars, as Israel closed the crossing borders with Gaza, so they cannot send food supplies, medical supplies, evacuate the injured Palestinians from Gaza to be medically treated in the West Bank. So there's a huge amount of anger here, and the Palestinian Authority, despite that, we saw today clashes between Palestinians and Palestinian security services in Jenin when they try to clean the planted bomb devices in the streets of Jenin, as well as a few days ago in Tul Karim. But because the repetitive and continuous Israeli incursions of areas A in the West Bank, that make it embarrassment for the Palestinian Authority to operate against the people.
But Mohammed, I hear you carefully, but I think we should start on October 7th and the massacre that took place in Israel, and the raping, and the beheading, and the burning of people alive, and the kidnapping of, at the time, 250 people, 136 of which are still captives in Gaza. And we're seeing polls in the West Bank, where you stay, in which 80% plus of the Palestinian people in the West Bank, mind you, people, some of your friends that have been thrown from high skyscrapers in Gaza by Hamas people, 80% in the West Bank are supporting what Hamas did in Israel. So how can Israel look at them and say we are partners?
Actually, the Palestinians sympathize with anyone who attacking by the Israelis, targeting by Israel, or also resist Israel, because here they feel are helpless. But also they are 90% call for the that President Abbas has failed in his position and he must leave the position, and 60% said that they should dismantle the Palestinian Authority, and the same percent about corruption here. So they have views about everything, about Israel, about Abbas, about the Palestinian Authority, about Fatah, about Marwan Barghouti, about everyone. So they have perspectives about that. But could be temporary because of what's happening, because they see watching the TV the casualties among civilians and they feel they are helpless. But it wasn't the situation before 7 October that the Palestinians in the West Bank. They were 200,000 Palestinian workers work every day in Israel, and they bring 6 million shekels for the Palestinian economy every day. Now they are staying here, do nothing. And also Israel doesn't allow the transfer the tax money to the Palestinian Authority. So the economic situation here is very catastrophic.
Grisha, obviously we feel bad for that, but still you probably can understand Israelis were afraid after October 7th to bring in Palestinian workers and.
I've been in those debates
for 30 years.
For 30 years, not only in Israel but also in the West Bank, in Jordan, in Egypt, and all over Europe and the States, and I hear the same excuses again and again and again. It's about time the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian leadership, take responsibility. If they want to build a state, they should not only take a side, take responsibility first of all. It's so easy to say we blame you, it's the settlers, it's the IDF, but where's the Palestinian Authority? They were supposed to deal with terror, because this terror that their leaders support, nobody condemned it. Mahmoud Abbas, Ashtaya, the Palestinian ministers, nobody condemned what happened on October 7th. Nobody condemned the massacre. Nobody condemned the fact that Hamas beheaded babies. And this is something that any human being, and it doesn't matter who is he, Israeli, Palestinian, Muslim, Christian, should do and condemn. And this is a responsibility that must be taken by the Palestinian Authority. This is number one. Number two, it's about time that the Palestinian Authority and the people stop whining. Israel and Israel and Israel. Yes, 140,000 Palestinian workers worked in Israel. 90,000 with permits and the rest are illegal. 32,000 Palestinians worked in the settlements inside the West Bank. Yes, they brought more than 6 million shekels a day to the Palestinian economy. But the Palestinian economy could build their own economy by taking responsibility. If they would just develop Jalab industrial area, the industrial area in Tarkumiyah, those things that I've been dealing with for 20 years. But unfortunately, the money went to different paths and to other directions. They need to take responsibility. They should condemn the events, take responsibility, and do what they did in Jenin, not only in Jenin, but all over the West Bank.
But Grisha, I want to make it hard on you. Both ends, the Palestinians and us Israelis, should opt for a better future. So we can argue forever, as you've said, you've been in those arguments or discussions for 30 years. But we can argue forever who should make the first move. They should apologize, or we should bring in workers, etc. What should Israel do?
So I want to be clear about
in order not to turn the West Bank into Gaza, because it's not in our favor as well.
Well, first of all, even before the events, even before the war, I've been doing that since I retired from the IDF, leading tours and lectures, and I've said 6 years ago that if there will be elections in the West Bank, then Hamas will win the election.
Easily,
yes. It was then. Why? Because Hamas are the heroes of the Palestinian street. Unfortunately, Mahmoud Abbas achieved nothing. But we need to blame ourselves also. We need to take responsibility. Who we are, when I'm talking about our leaders, to say that a different leader is irrelevant, that the Palestinian chosen president is irrelevant. So we also contributed to this situation. And we should stop, continue with the blame game. We are in a total different reality. Because if the war in the Middle East, and I'm not exaggerating, but we are on the edge of maybe a large escalation all over the Middle East, and if it will happen, we will not be the only ones that will suffer, but the Palestinian residents in the West Bank will also suffer. So both sides, we need to take a stand, put things behind us, shake hands, and do things for the benefit of the people of the State of Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank, and be rational.
Muhammad, what do you answer to that?
Yes, but unfortunately, the decision in Israel nowadays is not for the Prime Minister Netanyahu, it's for Ben Gvir and Smotrich. Imagine that a few days ago when the U.S. Secretary of State met Abbas here in Ramallah, he promised him that Netanyahu has agreed to transfer the deducted tax money and all the tax money to the Palestinian Authority to revive the Palestinian economy and to prevent its collapse. But because Smotrich doesn't want to transfer the money, so they cannot transfer the money. So who lead the Middle East and lead the region is Tamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and I don't think that those are people of peace or can achieve the vision of the general at the studio, because it's very difficult. In the past, there were a chance, and the leaders today in Israel doing a lot and contributing a lot, and you see how Israel become more isolated or unwelcomed because the regional country. Jordan, King Abdullah II of Jordan, also is unhappy with what's going here and with the Israeli policy. It's not the Palestinians who blame Israel, but also Egyptian, the Arab countries, the closest ally of Israel also. So the situation are difficult, and I think Israel try to use the force against the Palestinians for the past 56 years and achieve nothing. And they don't try to achieve and use the method of peace and withdraw the Israeli occupation from the West Bank and allow the Palestinians to have their political rights. All the time, they transfer the political conflict to become a humanitarian, give some permits to Palestinians and feeding them before killing them.
But Mohammed, I listen to you. I listen to you, and you keep on saying the same things that have been said for days, weeks, months, years, etc. And if you want, and I believe you do, to bring back those 1,000 Palestinian workers over here and to regain control of the Gaza Strip from Hamas after this war. So tell me something that Israelis can hook to or believe that they can hook to in the future, so we'll have a better future, because we're still in this blame game. And it won't lead us anywhere, not you and not us.
Yes, I agree with you. I think if there is a political hope for the Palestinians, that will contribute to end the problem between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I will tell you something. Here in Ramallah, the prices of the vegetables is getting very high. And when I asked why this happens, they told me that the Palestinian farmers in Jenin sent all the vegetables to Israel because the Israeli farmers are busy in the IDF and they cannot do that, so the Palestinians send. So it's like all the time they depend on each other, even in the wartime. I said all this wartime, the Palestinian farmers export their vegetables from Jenin and the north of Jordan Valley to Israel. That is the situation, even in the wartime. So it was always there is a hope, but the situation at the moment, they just try to give the humanitarian assistance here and there, and it didn't work. I hope that both leadership here and in Israel reach a point and agreement that they have to try the peace path, not only the violence.
Mohammed, last question, I'll refer the same question to you, Grisha. Convince me why or how the PA should and can take control over the Gaza Strip the day after the war, because Israel obviously oppose it strongly, because we see the voices coming out of Ramallah. Mohammed?
Sorry, I thought the
Go ahead.
For the general, yeah. Yes, the Palestinian Authority was supporting the health sector and the education sector in Gaza and pay for the electricity and for the services in Gaza and the salaries of its employees who don't show up at their position since Hamas military subjugation in 2007. But the Palestinian Authority said it's ready to go there and to take its responsibility and but it's conditioned that to have a political hope, to revive the peace process, not just to be a policeman, do the dirty jobs on behalf of Israel. So that's what the Israelis think the Palestinian Authority role. But the Palestinians said if there is a peace process and the promise of Palestinian state, then they are ready to take their responsibilities and go there to Gaza and to take control after the end of this war.
Yes, Grisha, is there a future for the PA in Gaza?
The future of the Palestinian Authority is near Israel. No Arab country will accept the Palestinians. We see what Egypt did. The first act that Assisi did, he blocked the border between Gaza and Egypt, saying a very nice narrative. I want to make sure that there will be no another Nakba, so they will stay in Gaza. So Israel will not, I don't know, push them somewhere outside of Gaza. Yeah, and we understand that this is This is not the real reason. Now, the same thing will happen with Jordan. Actually, Assisi and the King of Jordan met twice to make sure that something like that will not happen. So we need to be clear. The Palestinian future is near Israel. Now, a little bit about facts. In June 2007, Hamas conquered the Gaza Strip from the unity government. Since then, Mahmoud Abbas continued sending 43% of his budget, and some of it came from Israel, from the taxes that we collected for the PA, for the revenue.
Mistake by him?
He understood it's a mistake, so he implemented sanctions on Hamas in Gaza. Actually, he punished the people of Gaza, so they will reach to a reconciliation, because this was the only way to get back to Gaza. And Mahmoud Abbas stated he will not ride Israeli tanks back to Gaza. And I'm sure that if he will be asked to go back to Gaza, he will have demands from the state of Israel when it comes to the West Bank. So the government of Israel understands that, so nobody wants him to go there. But if he would be smart, and if he wants to be remembered in Palestinian history, and to take a side and stand, as you mentioned, he should say, guys, I'm the president, I want to take responsibility, and we will lead a change together. And the moment I'll do that, that will be a real proof to the Israeli society that he means what he says, and that will be the, let's say, the first step for a better future in the future.
As you well know, Grisha, my friend, people don't tend to change, especially not at the age of 87. So the chances for that...
One comment to that. Did you know that Mahmoud Abbas' dad lived until the age of 102?
So we have what to expect. Okay, Mohammad Najib in Ramallah, Grisha Yakubovich here in the studio with me. Gentlemen, both, thank you so much for attending this evening.